Welcome to the Reconnect Factor, the podcast of the Power Play Reconnect experience. I'm your host, Ruth Haskins. Quote, "Play is the highest form of research." Albert Einstein. Play is a topic that I love to talk about. In two of my first speaker engagement, it was my topic of choice. Why, you say? Because play is a powerful vehicle for personal growth and transformation. You know, no matter how much you think you know about yourself, I have found that play will reveal more about who you are to yourself, especially when you play full out. Playing full out is something most of us as adults don't do. We usually engage in play by observing other professional sports people playing, or we watch our children or young children playing. Children play full out, but we don't. We kind of think that play is for children, and in a way, we are right, because play has a purpose, a distinct purpose for every child. Young ones of all species play to develop social skills and survival skills, and to grow strong, healthy bodies. In addition, human children play to learn language, emotional awareness, and connection. But back to us, adults. What function does play have for us at whatever age we find ourselves at? Actually, it does the same thing for us that it does for children, and in some ways much more. As adults, we tend to become stuck in our ways, and play loosens us up, catches us off guard, and makes us look twice at the person that we see in the mirror. I always suggest that people take time to play a board game with their friends and family. It can be very revealing, especially when you get stuck in jail during a game of Monopoly. And I think if anybody has played Monopoly, you know where I'm going with this. And at the time that you're in jail, you're watching your presumed opponents eating all the real estate that you want. Now, after you get out of jail, it's always interesting to me to see the emotions that come up. Once we get out of jail, we make up in our mind that we are determined to get all of these alleged opponents. And some of these feelings are real. Anger, jealousy, and how about the all-time favorite, spite? Spite can move a game of Monopoly like nothing else. Sometimes we are so busy being polite and appropriate, however, that we really don't allow ourselves to be aware of some of our not-so-nice qualities. When they show up outside a board game or any other type of game, we usually blame someone else for what we are feeling. Play? This is part of the power of play. Play, however, takes us off guard, and we learn to see ourselves perhaps in new and transformative ways. We can make decisions about the feelings we feel and how we do or don't want to express them. Play is transformative in another way. And before I say anything else, let me say this: that play can be fun, but it also can be serious. Keep in mind how young animals play not to get to know themselves. They're not trying to find out what condition their condition is in. They are playing to learn to survive. A good example are mountain goats. They play on steep, rocky cliffs. This is their home. And the older, experienced mountain goats teach the young how to follow in their footsteps and survive. So really, it is the same thing for adults who play as a part of their routine. Notice I'm saying not every once in a while, but as part of their routine. And that routine play could be a hobby. It could be almost anything. It could be spontaneous play. I always like the example of a good snowball fight, or being poolside and playing with, this huge rubber ball, bouncing pool ball. However, the better we know ourselves, the better we can live in our environment. Play gives us the same strengths. We learn how to live well. We learn how to survive in a social arrangement. Play makes us self-aware. And when we finally become self-aware, then we can grow in acceptance of who we are, what we want, and who we want to become. And part of this acceptance is also about accepting who we have been in the past and how we came to be who we are in the present. So the art of play, and it is an art, can lead us into positive, fulfilling action. I'll talk more about that at another time. But did you also know that there's a science of play? Studies have been done that have shown the importance of play in childhood. Dr. Stuart Brown, founder of the National Institute of Play, obtained a research grant to interview males incarcerated for homicide. This interest came on the heels of the Texas Tower mass murder suicide in 1966. Dr. Brown was then a young assistant professor of psychiatry and became a member of the Tower Commission. The commission was tasked with investigating and understanding what was then the largest such mass murder in U.S. history. What had caused it? What happened to this young man who at the time was only 25, 26 years old? What Dr. Brown discovered is that many of the inmates that he came to study who were incarcerated had terrible play histories or no play history as children. Some of this was caused by major trauma in their childhood, domineering, cruel parents. Some of it was caused by the violence of the environment that they were surrounded in, so that it was never safe for them to play. And so they learned how to play in ways that were unsafe for other people. No matter what the reasons for the lack of play, it all had the same result: homicidal behavior. So let me move on from this really stark example of why play is so important to how the lack of play as adults, just as in children, puts us in a prison, not for crimes that we commit against other people, but for the crimes we commit against ourselves. Some of us are living in prisons created by trauma, and we've never addressed the trauma. We've let it go on for years and years and years and told ourselves, oh, I got through that. It's okay. I'm fine. But in reality, the trauma has never been healed. Our response to trauma has never been healed. And so it keeps coming back up in our lives. And we keep wondering why it shows up at the most unexpected times. Well, I'm here to tell you that play can really help us reach the root of trauma and help us to find a way up and out of the morass it creates. Do you know that play is used to help children overcome trauma just by using paper and crayons? They have discovered how much they can learn from a traumatized child's drawings about the events as well as the effect or effects of that trauma. And this works for adults as well. For example, coloring books for adults has become an outlet for emotions that can't be spoken. And I can say this truly because a friend of mine who was undergoing chemotherapy introduced me to this form of play. We would sit together during her sessions and color. In retrospect, I noticed I used a lot of dark colors with major flashes of red and bright, deep oranges. Lots of sadness and anger. On the other hand, my friend's work grew into brighter and lighter colors as she came to accept the illness that would take her life. There is no way to overemphasize the importance of play to our health, be it physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Children play to learn how to grow as humans. We adults need the same activity to continue to not only grow as adults, but also to heal trauma and hidden wounds. As we grow older, we need to continue to play, or verify the words of playwright George Bernard Shaw. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And when we stop playing, and these are my words, we tend to hide so much of what's really going on with us. We learn to create a facade around ourselves and present a face to the rest of the world that tells nothing of the trauma and pain that we're experiencing. And I'm telling you that play is an outlet. It is a door opener so that we can finally begin to address incrementally, just in little teeny tiny pieces, what's really going on inside of us and what has gone on for years and stifled our growth as a human, stifled the joy of living for years, sometimes decades. So, play is important. It is critical to our well-being. So in future podcasts, we'll talk more about the power of play and how it can help you and help me to reconnect to that joyful, peaceful, original, unique, and creative self. Until then, this is the Reconnect Factor, the podcast of the Power Play Reconnect experience. Thank you for listening. See you next time.